Kerry Davies, welcome to the interview. Thanks for talking to me. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Now, you're one of the fabulous experts on the True You Hub, and we'll talk a bit about that at the moment. And you're their sleep expert. Okay, which sounds really important because everybody has to sleep. So, first of all, can you tell me how you personally got involved with the sleep business?
So basically, I fell into it, if I'm completely honest. So I was a nurse way back when, many years ago, and was offered a training course 12 years ago now to learn about sleep. So I jumped at the chance of doing the course. And since then, my life's completely changed. And actually, I think sleep is my passion. You know, it's what I do. I live and breathe it. So I stumbled across my passion, you know, but then I do think everything happens for a reason, doesn't it? So it was always, you know, meant to be this way. And I think it's crossed a lot of T's and dotted a lot of I's. And, as time's gone on, I recognise just how important sleep is.
Okay, of course. Well, we all have to sleep, don't we? But some people can't sleep, and presumably that's what you help people with.
Yeah, absolutely. So around 40% of the population actually will have difficulties with sleep at some point, which is massively, a high proportion. And that's exactly what I do. Yeah. So I kind of unpick what's happening and put it back together. You know, it's a bit like a jigsaw. That's how I describe it, a bit like a jigsaw puzzle. So, take it all apart and put it all back together in the right order to help promote better sleep.
Okay. What are the main causes of people not being able to sleep?
So, and I mean, this is vast and wide, there's 101 reasons why. I'd say predominantly stress plays a really big part in, in being able to sleep. And actually from a physiological viewpoint, when we're stressed, that hormone will override the sleep hormone. And I think what lots of people do when they're unable to sleep is we panic, right? Because we know how important sleep is. So we'll panic about the fact that we can't sleep and then puts lots of different things into place to try and help us sleep, but actually it's all to do with the physiological stuff going on at that moment in time. I'd say stress is one of the biggest causes. I think lots of people think sleep is hereditary as well, so sleep issues are hereditary, and actually what I think it's more likely to be a tolerance. So if your parents didn't sleep well, you kind of think, well, I don't sleep well because my parents didn't sleep well, but there's always room to improve your sleep.
Okay, that's interesting. Would you say that it's becoming more of a problem these days? Are people's lives getting more stressful and therefore lack of sleep is becoming more of a problem?
Yeah, I think the world is 24/7 now, isn't it? So, that times have changed a lot from many years ago. And when I first did my training 12 years ago, we were talking about 23% of the population. That's increased to 40% in quite a short space of time, really. So, many people suffer with sleep issues.
Okay. Is it related to alcohol, and you mentioned stress and people's jobs? I mean, what advice can you give them to reduce all those problems so they can sleep better?
Yeah, so alcohol is a really interesting one, actually, because what alcohol does do is it helps us to get into our deep sleep more quickly. So lots of people use it because, alcohol does help us to fall asleep. Now, what alcohol does also do is it will help us to get into that deep sleep cycle, but it will really rob from our REM sleep. And our REM sleep, or dream sleep, is where all of the good stuff happens. That's where our emotions are being processed, our memories are being consolidated. So helping us to be the best we can be. So alcohol will help you to get into that deep sleep cycle, but will really rob from the back end of your sleep. And actually a hangover is sleep deprivation plus dehydration. Alcohol plays a big, huge part in sleep. So I always say avoid alcohol, but there are just so many reasons why we don't sleep.
And presumably that's why you may not be able to remember what you did the night before.
Yeah. Alcohol's a good. I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? Lots of us will partake, but it's never good the next day, is it?
No, absolutely. Okay, so how, as a sleep expert, can you help people with those problems?
So basically, it's about looking at their sleep right now. So what's happening with their sleep right in this moment in time, and where do they want to be as well? Because that's a really important factor. So it's not about achieving like the most perfect sleep, but it's about looking at the quality and the quantity of the sleep that's occurring right in this moment in time, and how can we maximize that? How can we make that the best that it can be? And there's many different methods, a variety of methods that we can introduce to help to support good sleep. And for me, it's really about skilling people up with the knowledge around sleep. So giving them a really good understanding of how physiologically sleep works. So it's not just do X, Y, and Z, and that's going to help to promote good sleep. It's about this is why this has occurred. This is what we can do about it. And taking those incremental steps into improving the sleep quality and quantity.
Okay, interesting. And presumably you can do all this online over the internet these days, or do you have to have people come and see you?
No. So when I started up my own business, that was three and a half years ago now. The whole kind of reason for starting the Sleep Fixer was so that I could reach more people, because sleep services are a bit of a postcode lottery. So there isn't very many places in the UK that offer kind of behavioural sleep support. So the whole reason for starting this was to be able to reach people who haven't got those services in their area.
Okay. How many hours sleep would you say that people need?
So this is like the trick question, really, because
I know.
I think lots of people think 8 hours is like the golden amount of sleep, but actually that can be completely incorrect. So sometimes I'll have people call me and they're really panicked because they're not getting 8 hours sleep, but they're actually getting 7 hours and they're okay. So it's all about really understanding how you feel the next day. So it's not about achieving a certain number of hours. It's about having that really good quality sleep, so being able to sleep through. So when you go to sleep, you wake up then in the morning, and how you then feel the next day. So as a rough guide, if you pinned me down, I'd say 7 to 9 hours, but then some people may be perfectly okay on 6.5 hours as well. I'd say if we're getting under 6 hours, that's when we start to see like the physiological impacts of sleep really impacting on life. So I would say definitely over 6 hours, between 7 and 9.
And do you, do you need less sleep the older you get? I mean, that's been said, hasn't it, that older people don't need so much sleep. Is that true?
It's not that you don't need so much sleep. What happens is over the age of 50, our sleep architecture changes. So under 50, roughly, we'll have our deep sleep cycle, which is really difficult to wake from. As we approach 50 and thereafter, that deep sleep, we don't have as much deep sleep. So the architecture of sleep changes, which means that you're more likely to wake up more frequently during the night after that age, but not necessarily that you don't need as much sleep.
Maybe for other reasons that older people have to get up in the night.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's certainly something I see in practice. Yeah.
Okay. What would you say to somebody watching or listening to this who thinks, wow, yeah, I only sort of get 4 or 5 hours and I'm permanently tired? And what advice would you give them to come and speak to you, presumably?
Yeah, seek help. Sleep impacts on every area of our life, weight loss, our emotions and stress, being quite irritable, being able to concentrate, achieving being the best you can be and being able to achieve all the goals that you've had. Sleep is going to have a real big impact on every area of your life. So definitely seek support if you're struggling with sleep.
Brilliant.
And it's often not as bad as you think it's going to be, So when you're taking it apart, it's often not changing your whole life. It's usually incremental steps that make big, big differences.
And what would you say to people also watching or listening to this who think my life is going to be, quote, taken apart by you? That sounds a bit daunting, maybe. What would you say to that question?
It definitely won't. And I'd say from my perspective, the biggest factor, in anything that whenever I speak to any of my clients is what they want. So it's all about looking at what they want. So, and then, like I say, maximizing on the opportunities that we've got, within that sleep window. And mostly it's really steady changes, really small incremental changes for the better, so it's really, really looking at what's already there and then making that the best it can be and then building upon that. So definitely not tearing people's lives apart.
Okay, that's very reassuring. Kerry, thank you so much for talking to me and explaining everything. It's fascinating. I didn't realize that going to sleep was so involved. And thank you very much for all your advice. And thank you for what you do with the True You Hub as well. They're a great team of ladies, and you're one of them. Thank you very much again.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be a part of the True You Hub.